April 3, 1943, 2:47 p.m. Henschel Factory, Kassel, Germany. The air raid siren catches Friedrich Weber mid-swing. His hammer freezes 6 inches from the armor plate, 100 millimeters of Krupp steel that's taken him 3 days to properly temper. Around him, 200 workers drop their tools and run. The sound of their boots on concrete echoes through Bay 7 like thunder. Weber doesn't move. "Meister, we have to go." His apprentice Klaus is already at the shelter entrance waving frantically. 40 seconds of work left. Weber brings the hammer down. Once, twice. The metal rings true. Perfect. The first bomb hits the north wall. The entire building shudders. Dust rains from the ceiling. Klaus screams something Weber can't hear over the explosion. The old craftsman sets down his hammer with deliberate care, wipes his hands on his apron, and walks toward the shelter entrance at exactly the same pace he's walked for 32 years. Klaus grabs his arm at the doorway. "Are you insane? You almost died for a piece of metal." Weber looks back at the armor plate still warm from the forge. "That's not a piece of metal. That's Tiger number 25007. That's some German boy's life I just saved." The second bomb takes out Bay 4. Through the shelter's small window, Weber watches 3 months of work disappear in fire and smoke. 12 tanks. Gone. He does the math in his head automatically. 12 tanks times 300,000 man-hours each. 3,600,000 hours of German labor erased in 3 seconds of American bombs. Klaus is shaking beside him. "My draft notice came this morning. I leave for Russia in 2 weeks. Weber says nothing. There's nothing to say. The boy is 18. He'll be carrying a rifle in the snow instead of learning precision metalwork. If he comes back at all, it won't be the same boy. "Will we win?" Klaus asks quietly. Weber watches the flames through the window. "We build them one at a time. The best tanks in this world. If that's enough, we win." The same day, 9:15 a.m., local time. Detroit Tank, Arsenal, Warren, Michigan. Jack Reynolds runs. Not because there's an air raid, not because anyone's shooting at him, but because he's 17 minutes behind schedule, and that's unacceptable. His clipboard flaps against his chest as he bursts through the door of Building C. "Tom, where's Hull 4127? Tom Harrison points down the line without looking up from his welding inspection. "Stuck at Station 7. Transmission mounts off by 3 millimeters. 3 millimeters, fix it and move on. We've got quota." "Can't. The transmission won't seat properly. We force it, it'll fail in combat." Reynolds stops, takes a breath. 3 millimeters. Some engineer in an office somewhere decided 3 millimeters was the tolerance limit, and now 12 men are standing idle while one welder fixes a problem that wouldn't even be visible to the naked eye. How long? 20 minutes. Maybe 30. Reynolds does his own math. 30 minutes times an hourly labor cost of $18 times 12 idle workers. $648. He could buy a new car for that. Instead, he's buying 30 minutes of American perfectionism. "Fine. Pull the next hull forward. We'll run parallel." Harrison finally looks up. "Jack, we don't have space to run parallel. The line's not designed for it." "Then we redesign it. Right now. Today." By 6 p.m. that evening, Building C is running 2 parallel assembly lines. By midnight, they've not only made up the lost time, but added an extra hull to the day's count. Reynolds goes home to his wife and doesn't mention that he's just permanently altered a multi-million-dollar production facility on his own authority. If it works, he's a genius. If it fails, he's fired. It works. April 14th, 1943. Sidi Bou Zid, Tunisia. 7:23 a.m. Sergeant William Chen watches the tiger through his periscope and knows he's going to die. The knowledge sits in his stomach like cold iron. It's not fear exactly, it's certainty. Range. His commander's voice cracks on the word. 1,800 meters, sir. Coming straight at us. Load AP. Gunner target center mass. Chen wants to laugh. Center mass. Like they're shooting at a practice target. Like the last 5 Shermans didn't put rounds into that exact same spot and achieve exactly nothing. His loader, Marcus Thompson, is crying. Not sobbing. Just tears running down his face while he mechanically loads the armor-piercing round. My sister just had a baby, Marcus says to no one in particular. I'm an uncle. I got the telegram yesterday. Loaded. Fire. The 75mm gun barks. Through the periscope, Chen sees their round hit the Tiger's glasses plate dead center. For half a second, he thinks maybe this time will be different. Maybe this round will punch through. Maybe the intelligence reports were wrong about the armor thickness. The round ricochets off at a 30-degree angle and disappears into the sand. The Tiger doesn't even slow down. Again, load and fire. They put 2 more rounds into it. Both bounce. The Tiger is at 200 meters now. Chen can see the gun barrel tracking toward them with mechanical precision. He knows what comes next. He's seen it happen to 4 other tanks in the last 6 minutes. Bail out. His commander's voice is dead calm. Right now. Everybody out. Sir, we can't just abandon the tank, we need orders to. Everybody out right now. Chen moves on instinct. Drops through the floor hatch. His boots hit sand the same moment the Tiger fires. The world turns white and red. Heat washes over him like opening an oven door. When his vision clears, his Sherman is a burning coffin. The commander made it out. The loader made it out. The gunner didn't move fast enough. Marcus Thompson sits in the sand next to him, still crying. I was going to name the baby after me if it was a boy. Marcus Jr. Chen watches the Tiger roll past their burning tank without even slowing. It's hunting for the next target. Was it a boy? Girl? Sarah. That's a good name. Yeah. They sit in the sand and watch their war end. Chen knows he'll be reassigned. He knows they'll give him another Sherman. He knows he'll be expected to climb back into that steel coffin and face another Tiger with the same useless gun. The knowledge sits in his stomach like cold iron. May 18, 1943. Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. 10:04 a.m. The M36 prototype squats on the test range like an ugly promise. Colonel Andrew Bruce walks around it slowly, one hand trailing along the open-topped turret. No overhead protection. Thin side armor. It looks vulnerable. It looks desperate. You're asking me to send men into combat in this? The test supervisor, a civilian engineer named Patterson, shifts his weight. Sir, the open top actually provides better visibility and faster crew egress in case of fire. And the weight we saved on overhead armor went into the gun mounting. That's a 90mm M3. Same gun we used to shoot down German bombers at 30,000 feet. I don't need to shoot down bombers. I need to kill Tigers. Yes, sir. That's why we're here. Bruce looks downrange at the target. A plate of German armor certified captured Panzer IV glasses mounted at combat angle, 80mm thick, harder steel than anything American industry was producing 2 years ago. The metallurgists learned from captured samples, reverse-engineered the heat treatment process, and now they're making their own. What's the range? 1,000 yards, sir. Bruce grunts. Tiger can kill a Sherman at 2,000. You're giving me half the range. We're giving you proof of concept, sir. If this works at 1,000, it'll work at 1,500. Maybe more. And if it doesn't work, Patterson doesn't answer. They both know what happens if it doesn't work. More Shermans burn. More men die. More letters get sent to mothers explaining that their sons were killed by a weapon America couldn't match. Fire when ready. The crew is young. The gunner looks about 19, fresh-faced and nervous. He takes his time with the sight picture. Breathes. Waits. The whole test range holds its breath with him. The gun fires. The sound is different. Deeper. Meaner. Bruce has heard 1,000 tank guns fire, and this one sounds like it's angry about something. The recoil rocks the whole vehicle back 6 inches. Downrange, the German armor plate has a hole in it. Not a crater, not a dent. A hole. Clean through. 90 millimeters of daylight punching through steel that was supposed to be impenetrable. Patterson is grinning like a fool. Sir, that's 80 millimeter plate. Tiger frontal is 100, but the mathematics say, I don't care about mathematics. Bruce is already walking toward his Jeep. I care about production. How many can you make? Ah, well, that depends on several factors. The supply chain for the gun barrels alone requires. How many Patterson swallows? With current factory allocation, maybe 200 by the end of the year. I need 2,000. Sir, that's impossible. The retooling alone would take... The word impossible just died on that test range. Bruce points at the target. You just killed it. Now figure out how to build enough of these to kill every tiger in Europe. He drives away before Patterson can explain why it can't be done. Someone else can worry about the impossible. Bruce's job is to win the war. June 3, 1943. Paderborn, Germany. 3:30 p.m. Unteroffizier Hans Müller stands at attention in the classroom trying not to fall asleep. This is the 4th time he's heard this lecture. The instructor, a decorated veteran with an iron cross and a missing hand, taps the chalkboard with his prosthetic. Your frontal armor is invulnerable. Say it. 20 voices chorus back. Our frontal armor is invulnerable, sir. The enemy's guns cannot penetrate it. Say it. The enemy's guns cannot penetrate it, sir. The instructor nods, satisfied. Good. Remember this. Your Tiger is the most powerful weapon on any battlefield. The Americans have numbers. The British have desperation. But we have engineering. We have steel. We have superiority. Mueller's friend Ernst leans over and whispers, Do you believe all that? Which part? The invulnerable part. Mueller thinks about it. He's seen the test results. He's read the combat reports from Africa and Russia. No Allied gun has ever penetrated Tiger frontal armor in combat. Not one. Yes, I believe it. Good. Because if it's not true, we're all dead men. The instructor overhears. Did you have a question, soldier? Ernst stands. No, sir, just agreeing with my commander. Excellent, because doubt kills faster than enemy guns. In the Tiger, you don't need doubt. You need aggression. Face the enemy. Advance. Destroy. In that order. Always. After the lecture, walking back to the barracks, Ernst is quiet. Finally, he says, My cousin drives a Panzer IV. He says the Americans are building something new. Some kind of heavy gun. The Americans build everything new. Then we blow it up. But what if... There is no what if. Mueller stops walking. Listen to me. We have the best tank in the world, the best armor, the best gun. The Americans have factories and numbers and desperation. In a long war, maybe numbers win. But in each battle, in each fight, we have the advantage. That's enough. Ernst nods slowly. That's enough. They walk the rest of the way in silence. Neither of them mentions that the war is already long. Neither of them asks what happens when superior engineering meets unlimited production. These are thoughts for officers and politicians, not tank commanders. August 23, 1943. Fisher Body Plant, Grand Blanc, Michigan. 11:47 p.m. Dorothy Miller's shift ends in 13 minutes, but the hull in front of her has a problem. The gun mount bracket is misaligned by maybe 4 millimeters, maybe 5. She could pass it. The next station would probably catch it. Probably. Her supervisor walks past. Miller, you're off in 10. Finish up. This mount's out of spec. How far out? 4, maybe 5 millimeters. The supervisor checks his watch, checks the production board. There are 3 hulls behind quota for the day. Will it fail? Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. Then pass it. We need to make numbers. Dorothy's hands don't move. She's thinking about her brother Eddie, somewhere in North Africa, driving a tank. She's thinking about how she'd feel if Eddie died, because someone passed a bracket that was 4 millimeters out of spec. How she'd feel knowing someone chose production quota over his life. I need to fix it. Miller, we don't have time. I need to fix it. She's already got her tools out. 15 minutes, maybe 20. Her supervisor opens his mouth to argue, sees her face, and closes it again. 20 minutes, not a second more. She finishes in 18. The bracket is perfect. The hull moves on. Dorothy clocks out 23 minutes late and doesn't care. That night she writes to Eddie. She doesn't tell him about the bracket. She just tells him she loves him and she's doing everything she can. Eddie will die 3 months later at Kasserine Pass, but not because of a faulty gun mount. His death will have nothing to do with manufacturing tolerances or production quotas. It will be because his 75mm gun couldn't hurt a tiger and the tiger could hurt him. But Dorothy doesn't know that yet. Tonight she goes home believing that 4mm might save someone's brother. It's enough to let her sleep. December 28th, 1943. Tidworth, England. 8:15 a.m. Robert Morrison misses. The target is 800 yards downrange stationary, the size of a barn door, and he puts the round 6 feet to the left. His second shot is worse. 10 feet high. Staff Sergeant Eugene Fleury's voice crackles through the intercom. Morrison, my grandmother, could shoot better than that, and she's been dead for 8 years. Sorry, Sergeant. Sight picture was, I don't want excuses. I want dead tigers. Load and fire until you stop embarrassing me. Morrison reloads. Breathes. The problem isn't the gun or the sight. The problem is in his head. He's thinking about Sergeant Chen's after-action report required reading for every tank destroyer crew. 5 Shermans destroyed. 0 Tigers damaged. He's thinking about what it means to face something that can kill you, but you can't kill back. Morrison, you still alive in there? Yes, Sergeant. Then prove it. Fire. He fires. The round hits center mass. Perfect. He fires again. Another hit. And again. 6 rounds, 6 hits. His hands stop shaking somewhere around the 4th shot. Fleury climbs out of the commander's hatch and jumps down. Walks up to Morrison's position. Better. Why? Sergeant? Why'd you suddenly stop shooting like your hands were made of pudding? Morrison thinks about lying. Decides against it. I stopped thinking about tigers as unstoppable. Started thinking about them as targets. Fleury nods slowly. You read Chen's report? Yes, Sergeant. You know what Chen's problem was. He went into that fight believing he'd already lost. The tiger killed him before it fired a shot. Fleury taps Morrison's helmet. We've got a gun that can punch through 100 millimeters of Krupp steel like it's tissue paper. But only if you believe it can. Only if you pull the trigger like you expect to win. I expect to win, Sergeant. Good. Because in about 6 months, you're going to be face to face with the real thing. And on that day, doubt will kill you faster than any German gun. Morrison goes back to firing. He doesn't miss again that day. Somewhere across the channel, Hans Müller is running training drills in his Tiger, equally confident, equally prepared. Both men believe they're going to win. The mathematics of war guarantee that at least one of them is wrong. January 17, 1944. 4:32 a.m. Kassel, Germany. Friedrich Weber wakes to silence. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of absence. The factory horn that's blown every morning at 4:30 for 32 years didn't sound. He lies in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to his wife's breathing beside him, and knows something fundamental has broken. By the time he reaches the factory gates at 5:15, he understands why. Bay 4. Bay 7 and Bay 9 are gone. Not damaged. Gone. 3 American bombs in the night turned 9 months of production capacity into rubble and twisted steel. The morning shift stands at the gates, staring at nothing. The plant manager, Herr Dietrich, arrives in his black Mercedes at 5:47. He's a party member, which means he talks like every setback is a victory waiting to happen. Gentlemen, this is merely a temporary adjustment to our production schedule. Someone in the crowd, Weber, doesn't see who laughs. It's not a happy sound. Dietrich's face hardens. We will rebuild. We will continue. We will produce 12 Tigers this month instead of 15. This is acceptable losses. Weber does the math automatically. 3 tanks, 900,000 man-hours. But more than that. 3 tanks means 3 crews that won't have their armor. 3 crews that might die because American bombs destroyed German production faster than German craftsmen can rebuild it. Herr Dietrich. Weber's voice cuts through the murmuring crowd. We have 17 skilled welders left. 12 of them are over 60. The young ones are all at the front. How do we rebuild 3 bays with 17 old men? Dietrich looks at Weber like he's spoken blasphemy. We use prisoners, foreign workers. The Slavs in the camp can learn to weld. Welding Tiger armor takes 5 years of training. Then they'll learn faster. Dietrich gets back in his Mercedes. Production begins at 0700. Anyone not at their station will be reported for sabotage. The car drives away. The workers stand in silence. Finally, someone says what everyone's thinking. We're losing, aren't we? No one answers. They just walk through the gates and start working. The same morning, 10:47 p.m., the previous night in Michigan, Fisher Body Plant, Grand Blanc. Dorothy Miller's shift supervisor calls an emergency meeting at the end of second shift. 200 workers crowd into the break room, tired, dirty, wanting to go home. Instead, they get Henry Morrison, some executive from Detroit, in a suit that probably costs more than Dorothy makes in 6 months. Ladies and gentlemen, Morrison doesn't waste time with pleasantries. Our boys are dying in Europe because German tanks are better than ours. Not more numerous. Better. That ends now. He pulls a sheet off an easel. It's a production chart. Current output versus target output. The gap between the 2 lines is the width of someone's grave. We need to triple M36 production in the next 4 months. Triple. That means longer shifts, weekend work, and 0 defects. Every hull that rolls off this line needs to be perfect because there's no time to fix mistakes in the field. A woman near the front raises her hand. What's the overtime rate? Morrison's face doesn't change. Time and a half for anything over 48 hours, double time on Sundays, and something else. He pauses. Every M36 hull that ships on time gets a tag with the crew name and unit. When this war is over, you'll know exactly which men came home because of the tank you built. Dorothy thinks about Eddie's last letter, the one that arrived 3 weeks after the telegram. He'd written it the day before he died. In it, he'd told her about watching a tiger destroy his entire platoon. About feeling helpless, about wishing American factories could build something that could fight back. I'll take every shift you've got, Dorothy says. Morrison nods. Anyone else? Every hand goes up. By February, Fisher Body is running 3 shifts 7 days a week. Dorothy's hands are permanently stained with machine oil. She sleeps 4 hours a night and dreams about misaligned gun mounts. But the hulls keep rolling. Perfect. On time. Tagged with names of men she'll never meet in battles she'll never see. Fighting a war. She's winning 6 inches of welded steel at a time. March 8th, 1944. Paderborn, Germany. 2:15 p.m. Hans Müller receives his deployment orders during lunch. Schwer Panzerabteilung 501 is being transferred west to France to prepare for the expected Allied invasion. His crew gathers around the table, reading the orders like they're death sentences. France. His driver, a kid named Werner, who's barely 20, puts down his fork. That means the Americans. Could be worse, Ernst says. Could be Russia. Russia has T-34s. Americans have Shermans. I'll take my chances with Shermans. Muller doesn't join the conversation. He's reading the attached intelligence briefing. American M36 tank destroyer. 90mm gun. Unconfirmed reports of armor penetration at extended ranges. Estimated threat level moderate. Moderate. The word sits in his mind like a stone. Intelligence doesn't label threats as moderate unless they're worried enough to mention it, but not worried enough to panic. It's the military bureaucracy's way of saying, this might be a problem, but we're not sure yet. Hans. Ernst is looking at him. You're thinking too much. Intelligence says the Americans have a new gun. Intelligence said the Allies would invade at Pas de Calais. Intelligence says a lot of things. This feels different. Werner laughs nervously. Come on, Herr Unteroffizier. You said it yourself. Our armor is invulnerable. Nothing the Americans have can hurt us. Mueller looks at the young driver and realizes he's about to lie. Not a big lie. Just a small one. The kind officers tell enlisted men to keep them functional. You're right. Nothing can hurt us from the front. It's technically true. Every piece of data they have confirms it. But data is historical. Data tells you what happened yesterday. It doesn't predict tomorrow. And something in that intelligence briefing, some careful choice of words, some bureaucratic hedging, tells Mueller that tomorrow might be different. He keeps that thought to himself. Doubt kills. The instructor with the prosthetic hand said so. April 2nd, 1944. Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. 9:03 a.m. Colonel Bruce watches the latest batch of M36s roll through final inspection. 23 vehicles. 23 chances to kill Tigers. 23 crews betting their lives that American engineering can match German steel. Patterson, the civilian engineer, walks beside him with a clipboard. Sir, we're ahead of schedule. Detroit projects will hit 250 units by June. I asked for 2,000. Yes, sir. And I explained why that was impossible. And I explained that impossible died on a test range last year. So why are we still having this conversation? Patterson stops walking. Because, sir, with respect, there's a difference between prototyping and mass production. We can build these fast, or we can build them right. We can't do both. Bruce turns to face him. You see those tanks? Yes, sir. Each one holds 5 men. That's 115 lives depending on us to build these right. Now, you tell me, Patterson. You tell me to those 115 men why we can't do both. Patterson looks at the tanks, looks at his clipboard, looks at Bruce. I'll talk to Detroit. You'll do more than talk. You'll move into the plant if you have to. You'll sleep on the assembly line. You'll solve every problem, answer every question, and eliminate every delay. Because in 2 months, maybe 3 of those boys are going to meet the Tigers. And when they do, the only thing between them and burning alive is the work you do today. Patterson nods slowly. Yes, sir. Good. Now get on a train. Patterson leaves. Bruce stays watching the M36s roll past. Each one is a bet. A gamble that American industrial capacity can overcome German technical superiority through sheer determination and scale. It's the same bet America's been making since 1941. So far it's working. But Bruce thinks about the intelligence reports. German production is declining under bombing pressure. Good. German training is suffering from personnel shortages. Good. German logistics are strained to breaking. All good news. Except the Tigers. The Tigers keep killing. Every report from every front confirms it. Tiger tanks are still nearly invulnerable from the front, still capable of destroying multiple Allied tanks before being stopped. Numbers matter. Production matters. But in the moment of contact, in that split second, when one tank faces another technical superiority, still matters most. The M36 is America's answer to that equation. It has to work. Because if it doesn't, Bruce is sending men to die in machines that can't protect them. May 14, 1944. Tidworth, England. 7:45 p.m. Robert Morrison cleans his gun sight for the 3rd time. It doesn't need cleaning. He cleaned it this morning again at lunch and now again after dinner, but his hands need something to do and the sight is there. You're going to wear the glass out. Fleury sits down on the bunk across from him. We ship out in 2 weeks. You planning to spend the whole time polishing lenses? Just want it perfect, Sergeant. It's already perfect. You're just scared. Morrison stops cleaning. That obvious? To me, yes. To the crew, no. Keep it that way. Fleury pulls out a cigarette, doesn't light it, just rolls it between his fingers. You know what the difference is between us and the boys who died in Africa? Better guns. Better guns help. But that's not it. Fleury points the cigarette at Morrison. The difference is, we know the Tigers can die. Chen and his boys, they went into those fights already beaten. In their heads, the Tigers were monsters. Invincible. When you believe something can't be killed, you shoot to survive, not to win. But what if we miss first shot? What if we miss, and the tiger doesn't? Then we die. But we die trying to kill it, not trying to run from it. That's the difference. Fleury finally lights the cigarette. You've put 600 rounds downrange in training. Your hit rate at combat distance is 91%. You're not going to miss. Morrison wants to believe that. He wants to believe that training and statistics and American engineering are enough. But somewhere in France, there's a German crew training just as hard, believing just as strongly in their own invincibility. One of them is wrong. The question is which one? Get some sleep, Fleury says. We've got early drill tomorrow. Morrison lies down but doesn't sleep. He thinks about Chen's report, about 5 Shermans burning, about men dying because their weapons couldn't hurt what was hurting them. He thinks about the armor plate at Aberdeen, the one with the perfect 90mm hole punched through it. He thinks about the gap between test range certainty and battlefield chaos. Somewhere around midnight, he makes a decision. When he faces his tiger, he's not going to hesitate. He's not going to doubt. He's going to put a round through it and watch it burn. Because doubt kills faster than enemy guns, and Morrison plans to live. June 4th, 1944. Somewhere in France. 11:30 p.m. Hans Müller can't sleep. His tiger sits 50 meters away in the darkness, camouflaged under netting and tree branches, waiting for tomorrow. Intelligence says the invasion is imminent. Every panzer unit in France is on full alert. The Americans and British are coming, and when they do, the Tigers will be there to meet them. Werner is snoring in the next bunk. Ernst is outside smoking. Müller lies in the darkness, thinking about the intelligence briefing. M36, 90mm gun, moderate threat. His loader, a replacement named Franz, who joined them last month, whispers from across the tent. Herr Unteroffizier, are you awake? Yes? Is it true what they say about the tiger being invincible? Müller thinks about lying again, decides Franz deserves the truth. From the front, yes. Nothing they have can penetrate our glacis at combat range. From the front, Franz repeats. What about from the side? Don't let them get to our side. And the back. Franz, if something gets behind us, we've already made a mistake. The tiger's strength is frontal engagement. We face the enemy. We advance. We destroy. That's the doctrine. Franz is quiet for a long time. Then, what if the doctrine is wrong? Then we follow it anyway and hope we're lucky. It's not a good answer. Müller knows it's not a good answer, but it's the only honest one he has. The Tiger's design philosophy assumes frontal superiority. German tactical doctrine is built around that assumption. If the assumption is wrong, the entire system collapses. But the assumption isn't wrong. Every piece of data confirms it. So why does Müller lie awake at night, thinking about moderate threat assessments and unconfirmed armor penetration reports? Outside, Ernst finishes his cigarette and comes back to the tent. You should sleep, Hans. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. How long? Ernst shrugs. However long it takes for the Allies to give up and go home. They both know he's joking. The Allies aren't going home. This is the beginning of the end, whatever propaganda says. But they're tank commanders, not strategists. Their job isn't to win the war. It's to win the next battle. And in the next battle, they have the best tank in the world. That's enough. It has to be enough. June 5, 1944, 11:47 p.m. English Channel. Morrison vomits into a bucket for the third time. The transport ship rocks through heavy seas, and his stomach rocks with it. Around him, the rest of the 703rd Tank Destroyer Battalion does the same. Nobody's embarrassed about it. They're all too miserable to care. 12 hours, Fleury says from somewhere in the darkness. 12 more hours and we'll be on solid ground. Solid ground full of Germans, someone mutters. Better than this floating hell. Morrison doesn't care about Germans right now. He cares about not throwing up again. He cares about the M36 strapped to the deck above him, about whether it survived the crossing, about whether the gun sight he polished 36 times is still aligned after days of salt spray and rough seas. He thinks about Dorothy Miller in Michigan, whoever she is, the name tagged to his hull. She built his tank. She'll never know if it saved his life or became his coffin. That's the strange mathematics of war. Thousands of people doing thousands of jobs, none of them knowing which specific action made the difference between someone living or dying. Morrison. Fleury's voice cuts through the darkness. When we hit the beach tomorrow, you're going to see things you're not ready for. Dead men, burning vehicles, chaos. You focus on your job. Load. Aim. Fire. Nothing else matters. Yes, Sergeant. I mean it. You start thinking about the big picture, you'll freeze. You start wondering if you're doing the right thing, you'll hesitate. And hesitation kills. Morrison wants to ask if Fleury is scared, wants to know if the sergeant lies awake at night thinking about tigers. But some questions don't need asking. Everyone's scared. The trick is doing the job anyway. Above them, the M36 rocks in its chains. Somewhere in France, a tiger waits in the darkness. In less than 24 hours, American industrial determination and German technical superiority will meet in combat. One philosophy will prove correct. The other will burn. Morrison closes his eyes and tries not to think about which one. In the darkness of this transport ship sailing toward a beach he's never seen, carrying a weapon built by a woman he'll never meet, he does the only thing a soldier can do. He waits for morning and hopes he's ready. June 6, 1944. 6:47 a.m. Omaha Beach, Normandy. Morrison's boots hit French sand and he immediately falls. Not from enemy fire, just from the weight of his gear and the unsteadiness of legs that spent 3 days on a rolling ship. Around him, men are dying. The beach is chaos incarnate. Explosions, screaming, the wet sound of bullets hitting flesh. Move. Get off the beach. Someone's yelling, but Morrison can't see who. He crawls forward through sand that's red in places it shouldn't be red. His M36 is somewhere behind him, still on the landing craft, waiting for the engineers to clear a path up the bluff. A hand grabs his collar and hauls him behind a metal obstacle. Fleury's face covered in sand and someone else's blood. You hit. Morrison checks himself. Everything still works. No, Sergeant? Then get your head straight. We need to get the M36 off that boat before it becomes a target. They wait 3 hours. 3 hours of hugging sand while machine gun fire tears the air above them. 3 hours of watching men try to advance and fail. 3 hours of understanding that all the training in the world doesn't prepare you for the simple, stupid chaos of combat. At 9:52 a.m., the engineers blow a gap in the obstacles. The landing craft's ramp drops again, and Morrison's M36 rolls onto French soil for the first time. It looks small suddenly, vulnerable. The open-topped turret that seemed practical in training now feels like a death sentence. Mount up. Fleury is already climbing into the commander's position. Morrison takes his gunner's seat. Through his sight, he can see the bluff ahead, smoke rising from German positions. His hands are shaking so badly he can barely work the traverse controls. Contact. Infantry, 11 o'clock. 300 yards. Fleury's voice through the intercom is steady. Professional. Like they're still on the training range. Morrison traverses left, sees German soldiers in a trench line. Not tanks, just men with rifles. It's almost disappointing. He's been training for months to kill tigers, and his first target is infantry. Load he. The loader, a replacement named Jackson, who joined them last month, fumbles the round. Drops it. Sorry, I've got it. Take your time, Jackson. They're not going anywhere. Fleury's voice is calm, impossibly calm. Morrison realizes the sergeant is performing for them, showing them how to be steady when everything's screaming at you to panic. The round goes in. Morrison centers the sight, breathes, fires. The German trench disappears in smoke and dirt. When it clears, the infantry are running. Morrison's killed men for the first time, and he doesn't feel anything. No triumph, no guilt. Just a hollow place where emotions should be. Good shooting. Driver advance 50 yards. Stay in the cleared lane. They inch forward. Behind them, more M36s are rolling off landing craft. In front of them, France is burning. Morrison thinks about the intelligence briefings. The Tigers are inland, held in reserve, waiting for Eisenhower to commit to the main assault. This beach landing is just the beginning. The real fight hasn't started yet. The same morning, 3:17 a.m. local time. Kassel, Germany. Friedrich Weber works alone in what's left of Bay 7. The night shift is just him now and 3 other old men. The prisoners Dietrich promised never materialized. Or they did materialize and immediately died from malnutrition and disease. Weber doesn't ask questions anymore. The armor plate in front of him has a flaw, a microscopic stress fracture invisible to the naked eye but obvious under the testing lamp. This plate was supposed to ship tomorrow. Tiger 250221 bound for France. If Weber passes this plate, some crew might die when a shell hits that exact weak point. If he fails, production drops, and Dietrich makes another speech about sabotage. Weber picks up his stamp, presses it into the red paint. Failed. Reforge. Behind him, someone clears their throat. Weber turns to find Dietrich himself standing in the shadows. He's been watching. Herr Weber, that plate passed initial inspection. Initial inspection was wrong. The testing equipment says otherwise. The testing equipment can't see what I can see. Weber points at the fracture line. This fails in combat. Guaranteed. Dietrich steps closer. He smells like expensive cigarettes and desperation. We're behind quota. Again, every plate you fail puts us further behind. Do you understand what happens to factories that fail to meet quota? Do you understand what happens to tank crews with faulty armor? They stare at each other. Finally, Dietrich says, "You're 63 years old, Weber. You have a wife, a daughter. Both of them depend on your continued employment here." It's not a subtle threat. Weber sets down his testing lamp very carefully. "I've been building Tigers since the prototype stage. I've put my mark on 462 tanks. You know how many of those have had armor failures. I don't care about 462 tanks, 0 failures. You know why, because I don't pass flawed plates." Weber picks up the failed armor. "This goes back to the forge. You want to override me, you sign the pass order yourself. You put your name on it." Dietrich's face goes white. Signing off on faulty armor is career suicide if it fails. "You're being unreasonable." "I'm being a craftsman. That used to mean something in Germany." Dietrich leaves without another word. Weber goes back to work. He knows he's probably cost himself his job. Maybe worse than his job. But some things matter more than survival. He's spent 30 years making sure German boys have the best armor in the world. He's not going to stop now just because a party functionary is scared of production numbers. The plate goes back to the forge. Tiger 250221 will wait another week for proper armor. The crew that eventually receives that tank will never know that Friedrich Weber possibly saved their lives by failing a plate at 3:17 in the morning while most of Germany slept. June 19, 1944. 2:34 p.m. Villers-Bocage, France. Hans Müller watches the British column through his periscope and knows this is going to be easy. Too easy. Cromwell tanks supply trucks, infantry carriers, all strung out on a narrow road like sheep waiting for slaughter. His Tiger is hidden in a side street, completely concealed. The British don't even know he's here. Range to lead vehicle. His voice is steady, professional. The fear he felt on D-Day has burned away, replaced by something colder. Competence. Experience. 600 meters, Werner replies from the driver's seat. Load AP. Target the lead Cromwell. Fire when ready. Franz, the nervous loader who asked about invincibility 2 weeks ago, isn't nervous anymore. The round goes in smoothly. The gun fires. The lead Cromwell explodes. Chaos erupts in the British column. Tanks trying to reverse infantry jumping from trucks. Officers yelling orders. Nobody can hear over the explosions. Müller's crew works like a machine. Load. Aim. Fire. Load. Aim. Fire. By the time the British figure out where the shots are coming from, Müller has destroyed 7 vehicles. A Cromwell manages to get turned around, brings its gun to bear. The round bounces off Müller's frontal armor without leaving a mark. The return shot tears through the Cromwell's thinner side armor and kills the crew instantly. Ceasefire. Müller watches the surviving British vehicles retreat in disorder. Driver withdraw to secondary position. The Tiger backs out of Villers-Bocage. Behind them, 14 destroyed vehicles burn. Not one German casualty. It's the kind of victory that makes the newsreels, the kind that gets commanders decorated. But all Müller feels is tired. Ernst, commanding the Tiger behind them, radios. Impressive shooting, Hans. 14 kills in less than 10 minutes. 14 vehicles, not 14 Tigers. Müller doesn't know why he says it. The distinction shouldn't matter. Dead is dead. Still waiting for those dangerous American M36s intelligence warned us about. They're coming. You sound disappointed. Müller thinks about that. Is he disappointed? Part of him wants to face the M36, wants to prove that German engineering is still superior. Part of him is terrified that the intelligence assessment might be right. Moderate threat. What if moderate becomes severe? Just stating facts. Müller finally says. The British aren't bringing their best tanks. The Americans are. That night, sitting in his tent, Müller writes a letter to his mother. He doesn't tell her about Villers-Bocage. Doesn't tell her about 14 burning vehicles and men who died because British armor couldn't match German steel. He just tells her he's safe, he's well fed, and the war will be over soon. All 3 statements are lies. But they're the kind of lies sons tell mothers to let them sleep at night. July 8, 1944. 9:23 a.m. Saint-Lô, France. Morrison's first month in France is nothing like the training. It's slower. More waiting. The M36s are being held in reserve, while the infantry grinds through the Bocage country, losing men to every hedgerow and hidden machine gun nest. The tank destroyers wait for the moment they're designed for, wait for the Tigers to appear. How much longer do you think Jackson is cleaning the main gun for the 4th time this week? Everyone's bored. Bored and terrified, a combination that makes men do stupid things. Until what? Morrison is writing a letter to his sister. Not telling her anything real, just the sanitized version. Weather's nice, food's decent, missing home. Until we actually get to destroy a tank. That's what we're here for, right, tank destroyers? Fleury reading a week-old newspaper doesn't look up. Be careful what you wish for, Jackson. I just want to do something. We've been sitting here for a month while the infantry does all the work. The infantry is pinning down German armor. When those panzers finally decide to counterattack, we'll be here to stop them. That's the job. Morrison seals his letter. He understands Jackson's frustration. They trained for months to kill Tigers, and so far, the only thing they've killed is time. But Fleury's right. Tank destroyers don't seek out armor. They wait for armor to come to them, then destroy it before it can destroy the infantry. Sergeant Morrison keeps his voice casual. You ever worry that when we finally see a tiger, the gun won't work? That all the tests and training were just optimistic? Fleury puts down the newspaper. Every single day. The honesty surprises Morrison. But you said... I said doubt kills. That's still true. But fear... Fleury taps his chest. Fear keeps you sharp. You should be scared. The tiger's a monster. Our gun probably works, but probably isn't the same as definitely. We'll find out when it matters. That's not very reassuring, Sergeant. I'm not here to reassure you. I'm here to make sure you do your job when the moment comes. Reassurance is for chaplains. A runner arrives 20 minutes later with orders. The 703rd Tank Destroyer Battalion is being moved forward. German panzer units have been detected massing near Caen. Large-scale counterattack expected within 48 hours. All tank destroyer units to combat alert status. Looks like you're going to get your wish, Jackson. Fleury says, already gathering his gear. Try to sound less excited about it. But Jackson isn't excited anymore. His face has gone pale. Morrison recognizes the expression because he's seen it in the mirror. It's the face of someone who just realized that training is over and the real test is coming. They mount up at 10:47. The M36 feels different now. Not like a machine, but like a promise. Dorothy Miller built this hull in Michigan. Someone else forged the gun barrel. Someone else machined the rounds sitting in the ready rack. Hundreds of people Morrison will never meet have bet their best work that this machine can kill tigers. In a few hours, maybe a day, Morrison will find out if they were right. July 9, 1944, 4:15 a.m., near Caen, France. Muller gets the attack order at 0400. Major offensive. 3 panzer divisions. Objective split: the Allied beachhead, reach the coast, drive the invasion back into the sea. It's an ambitious plan. Some would say suicidal. But Muller's job isn't to question strategy. His job is to drive his tiger forward and kill anything that gets in the way. This is it, Franz says quietly. The nervous loader is back. The boy who destroyed 14 British tanks somehow disappeared overnight, replaced by the scared kid who asked about invincibility. This is it, Muller confirms. Check the rounds one more time. Make sure nothing shifted during the night. Werner, the driver, is praying. Muller doesn't stop him. Religious faith is officially discouraged, but in combat, every man makes his own accommodation with mortality. If Werner needs prayer, let him pray. Ernst's Tiger pulls up beside them in the pre-dawn darkness. Ready, as we'll ever be. Intelligence says the Americans have their new tank destroyers forward, the M36s. There it is. The thing Muller's been dreading since he read that first briefing. Orders? Same as always. Face them frontally. Advance. Destroy. Our armor holds, theirs doesn't. Ernst sounds confident. Muller wonders if it's real or performed. The attack begins at 0530. 53 Tigers, nearly 100 Panzer IV's infantry support. The largest German armored assault since D-Day. The morning fog is thick, reducing visibility to less than 200 meters. Muller advances carefully, watching for movement, listening to radio chatter from other commanders. At 06:17, the fog starts to lift. Through his periscope, Muller sees them. American positions, dug-in infantry, anti-tank guns, and they're partially concealed behind a hedgerow, an open-topped vehicle with a long gun barrel. M36. Contact, tank destroyer, 10 o'clock, 800 meters. His voice doesn't shake. That's something. Do we engage? Werner's voice definitely shakes. Muller watches the M36 through his sight. It hasn't moved. The crew probably hasn't spotted them yet. He could put a round into it right now, destroy it before it becomes a threat. That's doctrine. That's training. That's the smart play. But Muller finds himself hesitating. He wants to know, needs to know. Is the intelligence assessment right? Can that gun hurt him? Hold position. Let them see us first. Hans, that's insane. Ernst on the radio. Destroy it now while we have surprise. I want to test something. You want to test your armor against an unknown gun. That's not testing, that's suicide. But Mueller is tired of doubt. Tired of moderate threat assessments and unconfirmed penetration reports. One way or another, he needs to know if the Tiger is still invulnerable. Through his periscope, he watches the M36's gun barrel start to traverse. They've spotted him. The barrel stops, steadies, points directly at Mueller's frontal glacis. For 3 seconds that feel like 3 hours, both tanks aim at each other across 800 meters of French farmland. Then everything in Hans Mueller's carefully constructed world of certainty explodes into chaos and fire. July 9, 1944. 6:17 a.m. Near Caen, France. Morrison fires before his conscious mind fully processes the target. Training takes over. Tiger tank. Frontal aspect. 800 meters. The 90mm gun roars and the entire M36 rocks backward from recoil. Through the sight, Morrison watches the round fly. Sees it hit the Tiger's glacis plate. For half a second, nothing happens. Then the Tiger erupts. Not an explosion exactly. More like the tank suddenly remembers it's mortal. Smoke pours from the hatches. The turret stops traversing mid-rotation. Hit direct hit. Jackson's voice cracks with shock. Fleury is silent for 3 seconds, then quietly, almost reverently, "Did we just kill a Tiger from the front?" Morrison can't speak, can't process what he's seeing. The Tiger. The invincible monster of North Africa and Sicily. The machine that killed Chen's entire platoon sits dead in a French field. One shot. Frontal penetration. Everything they were told was impossible just happened. Load another round. Fleury's voice snaps Morrison back. There's more of them. Move, Jackson. Jackson fumbles the next round. His hands are shaking so badly he nearly drops it. I can't get it. Breathe. Then load. Fleury's voice is steel-wrapped in calm. We did it once. We can do it again. The round seats. Morrison traverses right, searching for the next target. His heart is hammering so hard he can feel it in his teeth. Through the sight he sees another Tiger, this one backing away rapidly. The German commander must have seen what happened, must be radioing warnings to the other Tigers. Target, Tiger, 11 o'clock, withdrawing, 900 meters. Take the shot. Morrison fires. Miss. The round kicks up dirt 10 feet to the left. He's shaking too hard, adrenaline turning his fine motor control into chaos. Again. The second shot catches the Tiger in the track. Not a kill, but enough to immobilize it. The German crew bails out running for the hedgerow. Morrison watches them go and realizes something profound. They're scared. The Tiger crews are scared of him. 3 hours ago, Morrison was terrified of facing Tigers. Now the Tigers are running from M36s. The entire tactical equation of the war just inverted in the space of 2 shots. All units, this is Overlord 6. The battalion commander's voice crackles over the radio. Confirm multiple Tiger kills. German armor is withdrawing. Pursue and destroy. I repeat, pursue and destroy. The M36s roll forward. Morrison's hands stop shaking somewhere around the 3rd kill. By the 5th, he's functioning on pure muscle memory. Load, aim, fire. Load, aim, fire. The 90mm gun that was theoretical 6 months ago is now the most feared weapon on the battlefield. By 9:30 a.m., the German counterattack has collapsed. 17 Tigers destroyed or abandoned. 43 Panzer IV-4s knocked out. The survivors retreat in chaos, leaving behind burning hulks and desperate infantry. Morrison climbs out of the turret when Fleury calls a halt. His ears are ringing from the gun blasts. His hands smell like cordite. He's killed more men in 3 hours than in his entire life before today. He expects to feel something. Guilt, maybe, or triumph. Instead, he just feels empty, hollowed out. The Tigers were supposed to be invincible. Killing them should feel like victory. Instead, it just feels like work. Necessary. Brutal. Final. Morrison. Fleury hands him a canteen. You did good. I just pulled a trigger, Sergeant. You pulled it at the right time in the right direction with the right weapon. That's all any of us can do. Fleury looks back at the burning tigers. Chen and his boys couldn't do what you just did. Technology didn't exist. Now it does. You're proof that American engineering beats German mythology. Morrison drinks. The water tastes like metal. How many you think we got? 5 confirmed kills from our gun alone. Battalion totals 17 tigers. That's more than the Germans can replace in a month. Fleury sits on the M36's fender. You know what this means. We can kill them. More than that. We proved they can die. Every German tank crew in France just got that news radioed to them. The Tiger's not invincible anymore. It's just another target. The same moment. 6:18 a.m. Inside Tiger 217. Hans Müller is screaming. Not words, just sound. Raw noise forced through a throat that's forgotten how to form language. Werner is dead, his head gone from the shoulders up. Franz is on fire trying to get out of the loader's hatch while his uniform burns. Ernst's Tiger behind them is also burning. Müller's ears are destroyed. He can't hear anything except a high-pitched whine. Through vision that keeps going dark around the edges, he sees the hole in his frontal armor. Perfect. Round. 90 millimeters wide. The shell that came through that hole killed Werner instantly, set off ammunition in the ready rack, and turned the Tiger's interior into an oven. He crawls toward the commander's hatch. His legs don't work right. Something's broken, he can't tell what. The smoke is so thick he can't see his own hands. Behind him, Franz stops screaming. That's somehow worse than the screaming. Müller gets the hatch open through sheer terror-driven strength. Falls out onto French grass. Lies there breathing, not thinking, not processing. Just breathing. Other survivors from his company are scattered across the field. Maybe 20 men from 45 crew members. The math is simple and horrible. More than half his company is dead or burning. Killed in less than 10 minutes by a weapon they were told didn't exist. A runner from battalion headquarters finds them an hour later. Müller is sitting against a tree watching his Tiger burn. The runner is young, too young, carrying messages because Germany's run out of older men to waste. Sir Battalion is reforming at grid reference. They went through the front. Müller's voice sounds strange to his ruined ears, distant, like someone else is speaking. The intelligence said moderate threat. They said nothing could penetrate frontal armor. Sir, I need you to... Intelligence was wrong. Müller starts laughing. It's not a sane sound. Intelligence was wrong and Werner's dead because of it. Franz burned alive because of it. Tell intelligence they were wrong. The runner backs away, finds an officer who's less clearly broken. Müller sits against his tree and watches tigers burn. 17 of them scattered across 3 kilometers of French farmland. The largest German armored assault since D-Day, broken in 3 hours by a gun that intelligence assessed as moderate threat. Moderate. Müller will carry that word to his grave, however long or short that turns out to be. July 25, 1944. 3:45 p.m. Kassel, Germany. Friedrich Weber doesn't hear the bomb that kills him. The American B-17, flying at 25,000 feet, releases its payload, and Weber is inspecting armor plate 250243, and the two events intersect with mathematical precision. The bomb hits Base 7 directly. Weber and the armor plate and 32 years of craftsmanship cease to exist in the same instant. His wife receives the notification 3 days later. Killed in service to the Reich. Factory accident. Honorable mention. His daughter reads the letter and knows immediately it's a lie. There are no factory accidents when American bombs fall daily. Her father died making tanks that can't win the war anymore. She takes his tools from the factory. They're all that's left. A hammer, some calipers, a testing lamp. She doesn't know what to do with them. Her father used these tools to build 462 Tigers. He quality-checked every plate, failed the flawed ones, sent German boys into combat with armor he personally certified. How many of those boys are still alive? How many Tigers survived? Did her father's perfectionism save lives, or just delay the inevitable? She doesn't have answers. She puts the tools in a box and puts the box in the attic and tries not to think about American bombs or German tanks or the mathematics of industrial warfare, where even master craftsmen are just statistics. August 12, 1944, 2:17 p.m., Falaise Pocket, France. Morrison's M36 hasn't fired in 3 days. Not because there are no targets, but because there are too many. The entire German 7th Army is trapped in a pocket near Falaise, being systematically destroyed by Allied artillery and air power. Tank destroyers aren't needed. The killing is industrial now. Impersonal. Overwhelming. "This isn't combat," Jackson says, watching another German column get hammered by artillery. "This is execution." Fleury doesn't correct him because he's right. The Germans are trying to retreat, but every road is blocked, every escape route covered by guns. It's not a battle, it's a slaughter. Morrison watches through his sight and thinks about the Tiger crews. Wonders if Hans Müller is down there somewhere trapped, waiting to die. Movement, 11 o'clock, 300 meters. Morrison calls it out automatically. Fleury looks. Infantry, surrendering. German soldiers, maybe 30 of them walking toward American lines with their hands up. No officers, no NCOs visible. Just exhausted men who've decided they'd rather be prisoners than corpses. Morrison watches them through his sight. Young faces, dirty uniforms. The same expression he saw in the mirror on D-Day. Fear and relief mixed together. Let them come. Infantry will process them. The Germans keep walking. One of them looks directly at Morrison's M36 and flinches. Even in surrender, the sight of the tank destroyer terrifies them. Morrison understands. He felt the same way about Tigers 2 months ago. "Sergeant," Morrison doesn't take his eye from the sight. "How much longer?" "Until what?" "Until this is over." Fleury is quiet for a long time. The war months, maybe a year, but this... He gestures at the Falaise pocket, at the burning vehicles and surrendering Germans. "This is over now. We broke them. Not just their tanks. Their will to fight. Because of the M36. Because of everything. The M36, the P-47s, the artillery, the logistics. The Tigers were their ace card. Once we proved we could kill Tigers, the whole German tactical doctrine collapsed. They built their strategy around invulnerability. We took that away." Morrison watches the surrendering Germans disappear into American lines. You think the crews know the Tiger crews who died? You think they understood what killed them? Does it matter? I guess not. But it matters to Morrison. He wants those German tankers to have known they were beaten by engineering, not just luck. That American factories and American workers and American determination built a weapon that matched their best. There's pride in that, respect even. Better to be beaten by excellence than chance. That night, Morrison writes another letter to his sister. Still doesn't tell her anything real. But he adds a line at the end. "I think we're winning. Not because we're better soldiers, because we're better at making the things soldiers need." It's the closest he can come to explaining Dorothy Miller's welding, Patterson's engineering, Colonel Bruce's impossible demands. The M36 didn't win the war, but it won enough battles to prove that American industrial power could match German technical superiority. And in total war, that's the only equation that matters. December 14, 1944, 11:47 p.m. Bastogne, Belgium. The snow starts falling at midnight. By dawn, it's heavy enough to ground the aircraft, thick enough to hide German movements. Morrison's M36 is dug in at the edge of Bastogne, with 3 other tank destroyers covering the eastern approaches. Intelligence says German armor is massing for another offensive. The last gasp. The final throw. Weather's on their side. Fleury says, watching the snowfall. No air support. No observation. They'll hit us blind, and we'll have to fight blind. Morrison checks his gun sight for the 100th time. The optics are clear, but visibility is measured in yards, not hundreds of yards. If the Germans come through, this snow engagement ranges will be close. Deadly close. You scared, Sergeant? Terrified. You? Yeah. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Fleury claps Morrison on the shoulder. We've killed tigers before. We can kill them again. But Morrison remembers the intelligence reports. This isn't just another counterattack. This is everything the Germans have left. Every tiger, every panther, every soldier they can scrape together for one final attempt to split the Allied armies and buy time. And it's all coming through Bastogne. Sergeant, if we don't make it, we'll make it. But if we don't, I want you to know. Morrison, I'm not having a touching moment with you in a snowstorm. Save it for your sister. Morrison laughs despite everything. Yes, Sergeant. The snow keeps falling. Somewhere in the darkness, German armor is moving forward. Tigers and panthers and desperate men making one last bet that German engineering can overcome American numbers. In a few hours, maybe minutes, Morrison will find out if they're right. He thinks about Chen dead at Kasserine Pass because his gun couldn't hurt tigers. He thinks about Weber dead in Kassel because American bombs fell faster than German craftsmen could build. He thinks about Dorothy Miller in Michigan still building M36 hulls, probably still welding perfect seams for men she'll never meet. All of it, all the death and industry and engineering and determination comes down to this moment. To Morrison sitting in a frozen hole in Belgium waiting for the tigers to come through the snow. He checks his gun sight one more time, breathes the cold air, and waits for morning to find out who was right about everything. December 15, 1944, 6:17 a.m., Bastogne, Belgium. The tiger emerges from the snow like a ghost materializing into solid form. Morrison sees it at the exact same moment the German commander sees him. 800 yards. Both guns already pointed at each other. Both crews already at combat stations. No surprise, no advantage. Just two weapons designed to kill each other meeting in a Belgian snowstorm. Morrison fires first by maybe half a second. The round catches the tiger center mass exactly where the glacis meets the lower hull. Through his sight, Morrison watches the penetration happen in slow motion. Metal punching through metal. Physics overcoming mythology. The tiger shudders, stops, and begins to burn. Hit confirmed kill. Jackson's voice is steady now. 4 months of combat have turned the nervous loader into a professional. But Morrison doesn't celebrate. Through the snow he can see 3 more tigers behind the first. They've seen what happened. They're spreading out trying to flank, refusing to present frontal armor. Smart tactics. Adaptive. Desperate. Multiple contacts. Tigers 9 o'clock through 12 o'clock. Ranges from 700 to 900 meters. Morrison's voice is mechanical, professional. Fear buried so deep it can't interfere with function. Pick your targets. Fire at will. Fleury is scanning with binoculars. All units, we have multiple tigers. Engage and destroy. Morrison picks the closest tiger. It's angling, trying to give him a harder shot. He compensates, leads. The target breathes, fires. The round catches it in the turret ring. Not a clean kill, but enough to mission kill the tank. The turret stops traversing. Crew bails out into the snow. The third tiger fires back. The round misses Morrison's M36 by 3 feet, close enough that he feels the pressure wave. Jackson flinches. Morrison doesn't. He's already loading the next round, already traversing to the new target. They're good, Fleury says quietly. These aren't the crews from July. These are veterans, survivors. Morrison knows what that means. The tigers attacking Bastogne aren't driven by confident crews who believe in invincibility. They're driven by desperate men who know exactly how deadly the M36 is and are attacking anyway because they have no choice. That makes them more dangerous, not less. The fight lasts 47 minutes. When it ends, 8 tigers are burning in the snow around Bastogne. Morrison's M36 has taken 2 hits, both glancing shots that damaged the fenders, but didn't penetrate. Jackson has a cut on his forehead from when the second hit threw him against the breech. Fleury's left arm is bleeding from shrapnel that came through the open top. Cease fire. All units report status. Fleury wraps his arm with a bandage while calling the radio check. Morrison sits in his gunner's seat, hands still on the controls, and realizes he's shaking. Not from fear. From exhaustion. From the knowledge that he's just killed his 7th, 8th, and 9th Tigers. From understanding that somewhere in those burning hulks are men who were exactly like him. Trained. Professional. Fighting for reasons that probably seemed good at the time. Morrison. Fleury's voice is gentle. You did good. I killed 9 Tigers, Sergeant. 27 men at minimum. Probably more. You stopped them from killing American infantry. That's the job. Is it? Morrison looks at his sergeant. Or are we just better at killing than they are? Is that what winning means? Fleury is quiet for a long time. I don't know, but I know those Tigers weren't coming to Bastogne to shake hands. They were coming to kill. We killed them first. In war, that's called victory. Morrison nods, but doesn't feel victorious. He feels empty. The same hollowness that's been growing since July, fed by every Tiger killed every German crew that burned, because American engineering proved superior. Victory and grief taste the same when you're the one pulling the trigger. 3 hours later, a courier arrives with a message from Corps headquarters. The German offensive has stalled at Bastogne. The 101st Airborne holds the town. The tank destroyers have broken the armored spearhead. The strategic situation is stabilizing. Further attacks expected, but the crisis has passed. We won, Jackson says, reading over Fleury's shoulder. We survived, Fleury corrects. Not the same thing. January 3rd, 1945. 9:34 a.m. Prisoner of war camp, Reims, France. Hans Müller sits in the interrogation room across from an American intelligence officer who speaks perfect German and smokes American cigarettes like they're infinite. Maybe they are. Maybe America has infinite everything. Tanks, bullets, cigarettes, young men willing to die. Germany certainly doesn't. Unteroffizier Müller, I want to ask you about the M36 tank destroyer. The American pushes a photograph across the table. It shows Morrison's M36, or one exactly like it. When did you first encounter this vehicle? Müller looks at the photograph and feels his hands start to shake. July 9th, near Caen. And what was your assessment? My assessment was that intelligence lied to us. Müller's voice is flat. Dead. We were told American guns couldn't penetrate Tiger frontal armor. We were told to advance aggressively, face the enemy, destroy them. We were told we were invincible. But you weren't. No, we burned. Werner died in less than a second. Never even knew what killed him. Franz burned alive trying to get out. I listened to him scream while I crawled to safety. Müller meets the American's eyes. That gun of yours. It doesn't just penetrate armor, it destroys faith. Every Tiger crew in France got the radio transmission. Tigers can be killed frontally. Just like that, the entire tactical doctrine became suicide. The American makes notes. How did that affect German operations? We stopped advancing, started hiding, running. The Tiger was designed for aggressive frontal assault. Once we couldn't do that safely, we had a 60-ton defensive pillbox that drank fuel we didn't have. Müller laughs bitterly. You didn't just kill our tanks, you killed our doctrine, our strategy. Our belief that German engineering was superior. Was it superior? Müller thinks about that. About Tiger 217 with its perfect armor and powerful gun. About the 14 British tanks he destroyed at Villers-Bocage. About the terrified Allied crews who ran from him. Then he thinks about the 90mm hole punched through his glacis plate. About American factories producing hundreds of M36s, while Germany could barely replace its losses. For about a year, yes. We built the best tank in the world. Then you built a gun that didn't care. Mueller stubs out his cigarette. That's the American way, isn't it? You don't try to match us. You just overwhelm us. More tanks, more guns, more bombs, more everything. Quantity became quality. The American closes his notebook. One last question. If you could go back knowing what you know now, would you still climb into that tiger? Mueller doesn't answer immediately. He thinks about Werner, who prayed before the battle and died without time for amen. About Franz, who asked if the tiger was invincible and learned the answer while burning. About Ernst and every other commander he trained with, most of them dead now. No, he finally says. Because I knew the truth even then. I just didn't want to admit it. The war was already lost. The tigers couldn't change that. All we did was delay the inevitable and die in the process. The interrogation ends. Mueller goes back to the prisoner compound. He'll spend the next 2 years in captivity, then return to a Germany that no longer exists in any form he recognizes. The tigers are gone. The Reich is gone. Everything he fought for turned to ash. But he survives. Werner doesn't. Franz doesn't. That's the mathematics of war that no one teaches in tactical school. The line between living and dying is arbitrary. Random. Morrison's aim was true, and Mueller's luck was good, and that's the only difference. May 8, 1945. 3:17 p.m. Detroit, Michigan. Dorothy Miller stands in Fisher Body Plant watching the last M36 hull roll off the line. There's no ceremony. No speeches. The war in Europe ended yesterday, but production continued through the night, through the celebrations, through the moment when everyone realized they could stop killing and start living. The hull is perfect. Every weld clean. Every measurement within tolerance. Dorothy runs her hand along the armor plate one final time and thinks about Eddie, about the letter she wrote telling him she was doing everything she could, about the telegram that came before her letter could reach him. Mrs. Miller. The plant supervisor stands beside her. Young man, too young to have served. We're shutting down this line, converting back to automobile production. You interested in staying on? Dorothy looks at the hull, thinks about 18 months of 3 shifts, 7 days a week, thinks about the hundreds of hulls she personally welded, each one carrying a tag with a soldier's name. Thinks about the men who came home because her welds held, and the men who didn't come home for reasons that had nothing to do with manufacturing quality. Yes, she says. I'll stay. Because someone has to build things. Tanks or cars or whatever comes next. Someone has to care about the 3 millimeters of tolerance that mean the difference between working and failing. Eddie's dead. No amount of perfect welding brought him home. But other brothers did come home. Other mothers didn't get telegrams. That has to be enough. It has to mean something. The last hull gets tagged and loaded. Dorothy watches it go and then walks to her station to start her next shift. Fisher Body is converting to peacetime production, but there's still work to do. There's always work to do. That's the mathematics that survives war. Someone builds, someone fights, someone dies, someone lives. And the cycle continues. July 1945, Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. Colonel Bruce stands in front of the display board showing final M36 statistics. Total produced 324 units. Total Tiger kills credited 347, confirmed 189 probable. American crew losses 412 killed, 89 wounded. The numbers are clinical. Precise. They don't capture the terror or the triumph or the complex mathematics of industrial warfare. Sir Patterson, the civilian engineer, has aged 10 years and 2. Final reports ready for your signature. Bruce takes the folder. Reads through the summary. The M36 exceeded expectations in every measurable category. Reliability, accuracy, survivability. The gun performed exactly as designed. American crews learned to trust it. German crews learned to fear it. Mission accomplished. You did good work, Patterson. We did good work, sir. All of us. Patterson looks at the statistics. Though I wonder sometimes. We built a weapon specifically to kill tigers. We got very good at killing tigers. The tigers are all dead now. What was the point? Bruce thinks about that question. About Chen dying at Kasserine Pass because America didn't have the right weapon. About Morrison living through Bastogne because America did. About the thousands of variables and decisions and moments of inspiration and desperation that led to this display board with its clean numbers. The point, Bruce says slowly, is that when someone builds an invincible weapon, you build the weapon that proves invincibility is a myth. The Tigers were good tanks, probably the best of the war. But they weren't magic. They were steel and science. We just had to match the science and overwhelm the steel. And we did. We did. Bruce signs the report. Now let's hope we never have to do it again. But both men know that's wishful thinking. Already, there are reports from intelligence about Soviet tank development. Already engineers are sketching new designs. The M36 proved that American industry can match any technical challenge given time and resources. That lesson won't be forgotten. The Cold War is beginning before the hot one has finished cooling. The cycle continues. December 1946. Kassel, Germany. The woman who was Friedrich Weber's daughter stands in the ruins of the Henschel factory. Most of it is still rubble. Some walls remain skeletal and blackened. Bay 7, where her father died, is completely gone. Just a flat space covered in broken concrete and weeds. She's brought his tools. The hammer calipers testing lamp. She doesn't know why. Some need to return them to where they belonged. Some acknowledgement that her father's work mattered, even though Germany lost. An American soldier on patrol sees her, walks over. Young, southern accent, polite. "Ma'am, this area's restricted. Unexploded ordnance." "My father worked here. He built tanks." The soldier looks at the ruins. "Tiger tanks." "Yes. My brother fought in France. Got killed by a tiger near St. Lo." The soldier's face is neutral. Not angry. Just stating fact. "I'm sorry about your father, ma'am. But I can't be sorry about this factory." She nods. It's fair. Honest. Her father built weapons that killed this man's brother. American bombers destroyed her father while he was building those weapons. The mathematics of war doesn't allow for innocence. Everyone's guilty. Everyone's a victim. The categories aren't mutually exclusive. What did your brother do before the war? Mechanic, fixed cars in Alabama. Was good at it too. She thinks about that. Her father building tigers, this man's brother fixing cars. Both of them skilled with machines. Both of them dead because governments turned their talents toward destruction instead of creation. Both of them losses the world can't afford, but suffered anyway. "I'm sorry about your brother," she says. "I'm sorry about your father." They stand together in the ruins for a moment. Then the soldier escorts her out, makes sure she's safe, and goes back to his patrol. She takes her father's tools home and puts them back in the attic. Eventually, she'll give them to a museum. Let them be displayed with a placard explaining that even in total war, some men tried to maintain standards. Tried to do their work perfectly, even when perfection couldn't change the outcome. It's not much of a legacy. But it's honest. September 1987. Bastogne, Belgium. Robert Morrison stands at the monument dedicated to the defenders of Bastogne. He's 63 years old. Retired postal worker. Grandfather of 4. His hands shake from Parkinson's, not from fear, but the memory of fear is still there. His grandson, 16 and fascinated by military history, asks, "Grandpa, is it true you killed 9 tigers?" 8. The battalion got 17 total, but I personally killed 8. That's amazing. You were a hero. Morrison looks at the monument, thinks about the names carved there. Americans and Germans both, because Belgium memorializes everyone who died on their soil. Sees Werner's name, Franz's name, doesn't see Muller's because Muller survived, which means somewhere in Germany there might be another grandfather telling his grandson a very different version of this same story. "I was a gunner," Morrison says carefully. "I pulled a trigger when ordered. The heroes were the engineers who built the gun, the factory workers who made it reliable, the officers who figured out how to use it. I just aimed." "But you stopped the German offensive." "We all stopped it. Every soldier at Bastogne. The airborne, the artillery, the tank destroyers. And the Germans stopped themselves too. They ran out of fuel, out of ammunition, out of luck. War's not about heroes and villains. It's about logistics and mathematics and who makes fewer mistakes." His grandson looks disappointed. He wants stories of glory and triumph. Morrison understands. At 16, he wanted the same things. Took him until 20 to learn that glory and tragedy are the same event viewed from different angles. But you're proud of what you did, right? Morrison thinks about that question. About Dorothy Miller's welds holding under stress. About Patterson's engineering being proven correct. About Colonel Bruce's impossible demands being met. About Friedrich Weber failing a flawed armor plate at 3 a.m. because standards mattered even in a dying Reich. "I'm proud we built something that worked," he finally says. "I'm sad we had to use it." Both things are true. They walk back to the car. Morrison takes one last look at the monument. In a few years, he'll be gone. The last generation that fought the war will disappear into history. The M36s are long since scrapped. The Tigers exist only in museums. The men who built them and fought in them and died because of them are fading into memory. But the lesson remains. Invincibility is always temporary. Engineering can be matched. No advantage lasts forever. The moment you believe you can't be beaten is the moment you start losing. Morrison climbs into the car. His grandson drives. They head back toward Brussels and the flight home to America. Behind them, Bastogne keeps its vigil over the dead. German and American. Tiger crews and M36 crews. All of them young once. All of them certain they were fighting for something that mattered. Maybe they were. Maybe it all meant something. Or maybe war is just waste dressed up in flags and doctrine, and the only victory is surviving long enough to tell someone the truth about it. Morrison doesn't know. He just knows that on December 15, 1944, at 6:17 in the morning, he fired a 90mm gun at a Tiger tank through Belgian snow, and the round went exactly where he aimed it. Everything else is interpretation. History. Story. The mathematics are simple. One round, one tank, one crew that died and one that lived. Add it all up across millions of such moments, and you get a war. Subtract the human cost, and you get statistics. Try to find meaning in the difference, and you get old men standing at monuments trying to explain to young people why any of it mattered. The Tigers were built with pride and died with shock. The M36s were built with determination and survived with exhaustion. Germany believed in perfection. America believed in production. In the end, production won, because you can't sustain perfection when your cities are burning. That's the lesson Morrison learned in Belgium. That's what he carries forward. Not pride in killing. Not shame in surviving. Just the knowledge that someone has to remember honestly. Someone has to tell the story without making it glorious or simple. Someone has to say that war is mathematics, and the equation never balances, and everyone loses something even when they win. The Tigers could be killed. That's what Morrison proved in the snow at Bastogne. The invincible could die. The superior could be matched. The perfect could be overwhelmed by the merely good enough produced in sufficient quantity. It's not a triumphant lesson, but it's a true one. And in the long mathematics of history, truth outlasts triumph every time.